The sky above planet Velra burned red as smoke rose from the battlefields. War had torn the land for many years. The humans and the Scifi, a tall and scaled alien species, were enemies with no end in sight. No one remembered who started the war. Both sides had lost too much dot in the dry hills of the southern range. A Scifi scout ship crashed. It had been shot during a mission and fell like a wounded bird. Inside, a lone Scifi named Rin barely survived the impact. Her leg was hurt. Her gear was broken, and her signal was dead. She dragged herself away from the smoking wreck, but she did not get far. A human patrol found her that same night. The soldiers pointed their weapons at her, shouting commands she didn't fully understand. Rin raised her hands and fell to her knees. She expected to be shot on the spot, but the leader, a young human named Ben, ordered the others to hold fire. "She's alone," Ben said. "And she's hurt." The others didn't argue, but they looked at him with surprise. No one helped the enemy, especially not a Scifi. But Ben's voice was calm and clear. "She's no threat now. We take her in." They tied Rin's hands and carried her to their small outpost near the cliffs. The outpost was old, built from thick metal sheets and dusty concrete. There were no other prisoners there. No other visitors. Just Ben and a few soldiers who rotated in and out. Inside a cold metal room, they placed Rin on a bench. Her leg was bleeding. She sat in silence, eyes locked on the human who had spared her life. She believed this was just the start of her pain. Humans were known for being cruel in war. She had heard stories how they questioned prisoners, broke their minds, even erased them. She braced herself for the worst, but nothing happened. The next day, Rin woke to find her wounds bandaged. Her hands were still tied, but someone had cleaned the cut on her leg. A small tray of food and water was placed nearby. Ben entered the room. He didn't shout. He didn't insult her. He just sat on a metal chair across from her and said, "I'm not going to hurt you." Rin didn't answer. She kept her face. Still, she didn't believe him. Days passed. Rin remained silent. Ben visited her every morning, asked simple questions, and brought her meals. He spoke about the weather, his work, and sometimes even joked with himself when she gave no reply. He never raised his voice. He never touched her without reason. The outpost was quiet most days. The war had moved farther north. Only desert winds and the hum of machines filled the air. Ben worked on old communication devices during the day. At night, he watered small green plants in the courtyard. Rin watched from a small window. The idea of a human soldier growing plants confused her. Why did a killer care about flowers? One night, a sandstorm swept across the hills. Power lines broke. The lights died. Darkness filled the outpost. Rin sat in her room, hands tied, heart racing. She thought the humans would use the storm as cover. Maybe now they would show their real face. But instead, she heard footsteps. The door opened. Ben stepped inside, holding a small lantern. He placed it on the ground and untied her hands. "You'll need this," he said, handing her a thick blanket. "It's going to get cold." Rin stared at him, shocked. Her fingers were stiff, but she held the blanket tightly. Ben stood near the door and said softly, "If I wanted to hurt you, I would have done it by now." Still, Rin said nothing. He left her there, the lantern glowing between them. That night, Rin didn't sleep much. She kept looking at the lantern, then at the blanket, then at the door. The enemy was supposed to be heartless. But this human was different. The next morning, she finally spoke. "Why aren't you hurting me?" she asked in a rough voice. Ben paused as he entered the room. He looked at her, surprised but calm. "Because you're not just a Scifi," he said. "You're a person," Rin frowned. "We are enemies," Ben nodded. "That's what they say. But I don't see the point in hurting someone who can't fight back." For a long time there was silence. Then Rin said, "You should have killed me." Ben shook his head. Maybe, but I didn't. He placed a fresh bandage on the table, along with more food and water. If you want to talk, I'll listen, he said. If not, that's okay too. Then he left the room again. Rin sat alone, staring at the door. Her world had taught her to expect pain, but instead, she had found something else. She didn't understand it yet, but deep inside, something was beginning to change. Days passed slowly inside the outpost. Rin stayed in her small room, her hands no longer tied, but the door was still locked from the outside. The food was fresh every morning, the water always clean, and her bandages changed without pain. She hadn't tried to escape. Her legs still hurt, and outside was endless desert. Even if she ran, she wouldn't get far. What confused her most was not the silence, not the lock, and not the wound. It was Ben. Every day, the human soldier brought her food himself. He didn't wear armor inside. He didn't carry a gun. He sometimes even brought small things, a book, a radio, or a simple puzzle, placing them on the table without saying much. She had never seen a human like this. One afternoon, the door opened again. Ben walked in, holding a small bowl. It wasn't the usual gray meal. This one smelled warm and sweet. Steam rose from the top. "What is it?" Rin asked, her voice dry. Ben smiled a little. "It's soup. I made it myself. It's better than the rations." Rin looked at him with narrow eyes. "Why would you bring that to me? You look tired," he said. "Figured you deserved better." She didn't trust it. But hunger was stronger than fear. She took the bowl and tasted it carefully. It was soft and mild, something like root and spice. It reminded her of the food she used to eat with her sister before the war. Ben sat across from her in silence, watching but not staring. The quiet was not heavy. It felt calm. "Is this a trick?" she asked after a few bites. "No," he said. "You want something?" Ben leaned back in the chair. "No, I just don't think every enemy has to be treated like an animal." Rin didn't reply. She finished the soup slowly. Her thoughts were a storm of confusion. Later that night, the power flickered again. The wind outside howled. Dust hit the walls like tiny stones. From her window, Rin saw Ben in the courtyard. He stood under the faint glow of a lantern, checking wires and machines. Then he knelt near a small patch of green, a garden. There were tiny plants growing in rows. In the middle of a war zone, this soldier was growing food. Or maybe flowers. She couldn't tell. The next morning, Ben brought her a small square box. "What is it?" she asked. "It's a music player," he said. "Old one, works on battery. You can listen if you want." Rin touched the buttons carefully. A soft tune played. It had no words, just notes. The sound was peaceful. She had never heard human music before. "You don't act like a soldier," she said suddenly, then looked at her and shrugged. "I didn't want to be one." "Then why are you here?" "Because I had no choice. My brother died in the early years of the war. I joined after that. Thought I had to. Thought maybe I'd understand." "Did you?" Ben shook his head. "No, war doesn't make sense. Not really." Rin was quiet. Then she said, "I joined for my sister, to protect her." "Is she still alive?" he asked gently. "I don't." "No," Rin said, her voice low. "She was sent to the shelters. I was sent to fight." "I never heard from her again." Ben nodded. "I'm sorry." For a while, they sat without speaking. The small music player played another quiet song. Rin's eyes stayed on the floor, but her shoulders were no longer tense. She didn't feel like a prisoner in that moment, just tired, just lost. Later that day, Ben opened the door and placed a chair outside the room. "You don't have to stay locked in," he said. "You can sit in the hall if you want, just don't go outside." "Why are you doing this?" Rin asked again. He looked at her, his face calm. "Because you're not what I was told," he said. "And I'm tired of listening to voices that only want more death." She didn't answer, but she stepped out of the room that evening. The hallway was narrow and quiet. She sat on the chair and leaned against the wall. Across from her was a window that showed the stars that it had been years since she looked at them without fear. Ben didn't bother her. He gave her space, let her return to her room when she wanted. The door stayed unlocked from that day. Trust didn't come fast. But a small part of Rin began to believe that maybe not all humans were monsters. Maybe some were just like her. Just people stuck in a war they didn't ask for. The next night, she said to Ben, "I don't know what you want from me, but thank you." Ben only nodded. "You're welcome." That night, sleep came easier. The days grew warmer. The wind carried less dust now, and the desert outside the outpost seemed quieter than before. Rin no longer stayed in her room all day. She spent mornings sitting in the hallway and evenings near the small courtyard. Her leg had healed enough for her to walk slowly. Ben still brought her food, though now she sometimes helped carry the trays. He never gave orders. He never acted like a guard. Instead, he became something else, a quiet presence, like a shadow that did not threaten. One morning, while Rin sat watching the sky through the courtyard wall, Ben placed 2 cups on the stone ledge beside her. "It's not real tea," he said. "Just boiled leaves from the garden. But it helps." Rin lifted the warm cup and took a careful sip. It was bitter, but not unpleasant. "You grow these plants for this?" she asked. Ben smiled slightly. "Some. Others are just to keep something green alive." Rin didn't understand fully. Her people didn't grow things for comfort. Every plant on her world had a purpose: medicine, food, or fuel. Beauty wasn't a reason. "You care for plants during war?" she asked. "I try," he said. "They don't ask questions. They don't pick sides." Rin was quiet. Then she looked at him and asked, "Do you miss your home?" Ben nodded. "Every day. I haven't seen Earth in 7 years." "What is it like?" He thought for a moment. "It depends where you go. Some places are cold, some hot. We have green forests, blue oceans, tall cities. Where I'm from, the sky turns orange in autumn, and the wind smells like smoke and leaves." Rin closed her eyes, trying to picture it. "We don't have seasons like that," she said. "Just heat and wind. And the deep valleys where the river cuts through stone. It glows at night." "That sounds beautiful," Ben said. "No," she replied. "It was dangerous, but it was home." They sat in silence again, cups growing cold in their hands. Later that day, Rin surprised Ben by asking to help in the garden. "You sure?" he asked. She nodded. "It's better than sitting alone." They worked side by side. Ben showed her how to clear dead leaves, how to check the soil. She learned quickly. Her people were skilled in survival, and she had steady hands. While they worked, Ben spoke more. "My brother's name was Leo," he said. "He died during a mission near the first Sirari base we found. They said it was quick." "I'm sorry," Rin said. "He was older than me. He used to read me stories when we were kids. Space legends, heroes and explorers." "You became a soldier because of him?" Ben paused. "Yes and no. After he died, I wanted revenge. I wanted to fight, to make it right. But war doesn't work like that. Did you kill anyone?" Rin asked, her voice careful. Ben didn't answer at once. Then he said, "Yes, I did, and I think about it every night." He didn't say more. Rin looked at the plant she was watering. Her scales shimmered faintly in the sunlight. "I never killed anyone," she said. "I was a scout. I only watched and sent signals, but I saw the damage. The fear. My people believed humans were monsters, and mine believed yours were cold and heartless," Ben replied. She shook her head. "I believed it too, until now." Ben looked at her. "And now? I don't know what to believe," she said softly. Later that evening, Ben showed her a map. It was old, with marks and pins from battles long past. There's a neutral zone, he said, pointing to a shaded area. No one controls it. If you ever wanted to leave, you might be able to reach it. You'd let me go? She asked. If that's what you want. Rin looked at the map. It was far, across desert and ruins. I can't go alone. Ben didn't answer right away, but his expression was clear. You'd help me? She asked. He nodded. If you asked. Rin looked away, unsure what she felt. She had been taught that humans only used others. But here was one, offering her freedom. That night, she sat by the window and stared at the stars. She remembered. Her sister's voice, laughter under glowing caves, promises of a better future. She wondered if her sister was still out there somewhere. Ben passed her in the hall. He didn't speak, but she called after him. Thank you, she said. He looked back. For what? For not being what I expected. He smiled slightly. You're welcome. Something had shifted between them. Not friendship, not yet, but something softer than hate. A thread that connected two people from opposite sides. And in the quiet space between words, a new story had begun to grow. For some time, the outpost remained quiet. Rin helped Ben in the garden during the day and listened to music in the evening. She still stayed inside, but the walls no longer felt like a prison. She had even started to smile a little, just small. Once when the wind brought in the scent of flowers, or when Ben told her one of his dry jokes. But peace never stayed long in times of war. One afternoon, a strange sound came from the sky, a low, distant hum. Rin looked up through the courtyard window and saw a black shape moving fast in the clouds. It was a human transport ship. Ben ran to the courtyard with a pair of old binoculars. His face turned serious. Trouble? Rin asked. He nodded. Command. Sent someone, too early. They weren't supposed to check in for another 2 weeks. Rin stepped back. What does that mean for me? Ben didn't answer right away. Then he said, it means you need to hide now. He led her quickly to a small storage room beneath the outpost's kitchen. It smelled of metal, dust, and old supplies. There was barely enough space to sit. I'll be back when it's safe, Ben said. Don't make a sound. Rin gave a small nod before he shut the door. She waited. Above her, footsteps echoed. She heard voices, sharp, unfamiliar. Ones, not like Ben's. These were cold, direct, official. A new man had arrived. His name was Dale, a senior officer with a black uniform and strict tone. Rin couldn't see him, but she could hear every word through the thin vents. What's your report, soldier? Dale asked. Outpost is calm, Ben replied. No. Threats, no movement from the Scifi in this zone. You're alone? Yes, sir. Rin's heart pounded. She knew it was a risk for Ben to lie. If they found her, they would kill her and punish him. Dale's voice grew suspicious. What's that noise? Thought I heard something below. Ben answered calmly. Just the old cooling system. It's been acting up again. I've filed reports, but no one comes out here to fix anything. Dale didn't respond right away. Rin held her breath. Then, fine, but I'll be back with a full team next time. If you're hiding anything, I'll find it. The footsteps faded. Ben opened the hatch late that night. Rin crawled out, covered in dust and sweat. She looked up at him with wide eyes. You could have turned me in, she said. He helped her. Stand. Yeah, I could have. Why didn't you? Ben looked tired, but steady. Because you're not my enemy. She watched him closely. He'll come back, won't he? Yes, with more soldiers. Then I can't stay. Ben nodded slowly. I know. Rin looked away, thinking. She had feared the outpost at first. Now she feared leaving it. But staying would bring danger to them both. Then we go to the neutral zone, she said. Like you said before. Ben agreed, though the path would be hard. The desert was wide and full of dangers. Machines, patrols, and wild creatures roamed freely. But it was their only hope. For the next few days they prepared. Ben packed food, water, maps, and an old compass. Rin gathered cloth for covering their tracks and checked the oxygen levels in old field masks. During these quiet hours, they talked more. "Did you ever want to be something else?" Rin asked one evening. Ben laughed softly. "Yeah, I wanted to be a teacher. History." "Why history?" "Because I thought we could learn from it. But I guess we keep repeating the same mistakes." Rin thought for a moment. "I wanted to build flying machines," she said. "Before the war." "That's a better dream," he smiled. On their last night in the outpost, Ben and Rin stood near the edge of the courtyard. The stars above were sharp and clear, shining across the black sky. "If we don't make it," she said quietly, "what will they say about us?" Ben looked up. "Maybe nothing. Maybe they'll never know." She nodded slowly. "Then I hope we leave something behind. A sign. A story." Ben reached into his pocket and pulled out a small pin. It was old, round, and had a symbol of Earth's moon on it. "This belonged to my brother," he said. "Take it. In case I don't make it." Rin looked at it, then at him. "No," she said. "We both make it, or none." They stood in silence as the wind picked up. Tomorrow they would leave, not as enemies, not as prisoner and guard, but as two people running from war toward something unknown, maybe even toward peace. The desert stretched far in all directions. Heat rose from the sand like smoke. In the early morning, before the sun fully showed itself, Ben and Rin left the outpost behind. They carried only what they needed: water, dried food, a map, 2 masks, and a small radio. Ben had also hidden a flare gun under his jacket, just in case. Rin wore a long brown cloak to protect her scales from the burning sun. Her leg was still weak, but she could walk. Neither of them looked back. "We have 3 days," Ben said, checking the map. "If we move fast, we can reach the canyon before the patrols get close." "And if they find us?" Rin asked. Ben looked ahead. "We run faster." They walked for hours. The land around them was dry and cracked. Broken machines from old battles lay half buried in the sand. Rin saw the remains of a Scifi drone once, its wings bent, its eyes dark. "Do you think the war will ever end?" she asked. Ben didn't answer right away. "Only if people like us stop listening to those who want it." They rested under a sharp rock formation at noon. The sun was too strong to keep walking. Rin used her cloak to cover both of them. They shared a water bottle and spoke quietly. "Did you tell anyone we were leaving?" she asked. "No," he said. "If they knew, they'd try to stop us, or worse." "And your people? Won't they think you betrayed them?" "They already did when I refused to hurt you," Ben said. "Let them think what they want." Rin looked at him for a moment, then nodded. "You're different." Ben gave a small smile. "So are you." They moved again in the late afternoon. The desert was cooler now, but the wind began to pick up. Dust swirled around them. Rin used her scarf to cover her mouth. Ben pulled his hood down low. By nightfall, they reached a small rocky hill where they could camp. Ben set up a small heat lamp. Rin placed stones around their sleeping area to block wind. As they sat near the lamp, Rin took out the moonpin Ben had given her. She stared at it in her hand. "You still want to teach?" she asked. "Someday," Ben said. "If there's a world left for schools." Rin nodded. "If I survive this, maybe I'll fly again. I used to design gliders when I was young. Tell me about them." She smiled slightly and spoke about her flying machines, how they used the warm air of the valleys to stay in the sky, how the Scifi children would race each other in the wide-open canyons. Ben listened closely. Her voice was soft but strong, like a breeze that had survived a storm. Suddenly, the radio in Ben's bag cracked. A voice came through, broken but clear enough. "Outpost 7. Respond unknown signal heading east, patrol sent. Check all roads. Ben quickly shut it off. They're coming, he said. Rin's eyes narrowed. How far? Maybe a day behind. Maybe less if they're using bikes. They packed quickly and moved again. This time they walked under the stars, using only a small red light to see the map. The desert at night was cold, and the silence made every sound feel louder. Around midnight, they heard something, a metal hum. Low and steady. Ben grabbed Rin's hand and pulled her behind a large stone. He peeked around the corner and saw an old scout drone flying low across the sand. Its blue lights scanned the ground. If it sees us, it'll send a signal, he whispered. Rin nodded. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small black object. It was a signal jammer Scifi tech. She pressed a button, and the device let out a faint pulse. The drone flickered. Its lights blinked, then dimmed. Slowly, it turned away and flew. In another direction. Ben looked at her, impressed. You saved us. She gave a small smile. Now we're even. They rested in a dry cave before sunrise. Both were exhausted. Rin leaned against the wall and looked at Ben. You know, she said, I thought you were going to kill me when we first met. I know, Ben replied, but you didn't. You gave me water, food, music. You gave me something too. Ben said, What? Hope, he said simply. The cave was quiet. Outside, the wind whispered. Inside, two people from different worlds shared the same fear and the same hope. Before falling asleep, Rin whispered, Let's not die tomorrow. Ben chuckled softly. I'll try my best. The next morning, the sky was cloudy and the air heavy. A sandstorm was building on the edge of the horizon. Ben and Rin left the cave early, moving quickly toward the canyon that marked the start of the neutral zone. If we make it past the canyon, Ben said, pointing at the cliffs ahead, we'll be safe. No patrols go there. Rin tightened the straps on her bag. Then let's move. They followed an old trade path between broken stones and sharp ridges. The map showed a shortcut through a narrow pass, but it was risky steep cliffs on both sides. No place to hide. Still, they had no choice. By midday, the wind picked up. Sand hit their faces and visibility dropped. Ben wrapped his scarf around his nose and pulled Rin behind a large boulder to rest. We're close, he said. A few more kilometers and we'll see the canyon entrance. Suddenly, a sound cracked through the wind. A gunshot. Ben dropped to the ground. Stay low. More shots followed. Dust exploded near Rin's feet. She crawled beside Ben, eyes wide. In the distance, dark figures moved between the rocks. Human soldiers. They found us, Ben said through clenched teeth. Can we go back? Rin asked. No time. We have to move forward. Ben pulled the flare gun from his jacket. We'll split their aim. I'll fire a shot toward the left. When they turn, you run to that ridge. You want me to run alone? I'll follow. Right after. Trust me. She didn't argue. They counted down. 3, 2, 1. Ben fired. The flare shot into the air with a bright red light. It whistled loudly, and the soldiers turned toward the sound. Rin ran, her heart pounding, the wind screaming in her ears. Bullets hit the rocks beside her, but she kept going. Ben followed. Zigzagging behind her, they reached the top of the ridge, but just then, another surprise hit them. A group of Scifi scouts appeared from the other side of the pass. Their armor was black and red, their weapons raised. They had come to recover lost warriors. Instead, they found Rin running beside a human. They shouted in their own language, demanding answers. One of them, taller and older, pointed his weapon straight at Rin. You are running with the enemy, he hissed. Explain, Rin raised her hands. He saved me. I would be dead without him. He used you, the scout shouted. They always lie. Behind them, the human soldiers were closing in. Ben stood beside Rin, hands raised. "I'm not here to fight," he said. "We just want to cross into the neutral zone. That's all." The Scifi leader stepped forward. His eyes were cold. "Give us the human, and we will let you go." Ben looked at Rin. She stood still, breathing hard, eyes full of conflict. The Scifi leader raised his gun again. "Now!" Ben stepped forward. "If you want her, you'll have to go through." "Me!" The Scifi stared at him, surprised. Rin shouted, "Stop! He is not the enemy. He didn't hurt me. He protected me. When I was weak, he gave me water. When I was scared, he gave me peace." The wind blew harder. The human soldiers reached the ridge and saw the group. Both sides lifted their weapons. For a moment, everyone stood frozen, ready to fire, but Ben did not move. He stood tall, hands still raised, and then something happened that no one expected. The Scifi leader lowered his weapon. "We were told humans were heartless," he said slowly, "but this one stood for you." He looked at Ben. "You would protect a Scifi?" "Yes," Ben said. "Because she's not just a Scifi, she's a person." The human soldiers didn't know what to do. Their commander shouted from behind, "Ben, step away from the alien. You're under arrest." Ben turned and shouted back, "No! You're wrong. This war has taken enough. Let her go. Let us go." The silence stretched long. Guns were still, raised, but no one fired. Finally, a younger soldier on the human side lowered his weapon. Then another. One of the Scifi scouts stepped back, unsure. No one wanted to be the first to break the moment. Then the Scifi leader raised his hand and said something in his language. His soldiers backed down. The human commander gave one last angry look, then barked, "We'll report this. Don't think. It's over." But they didn't shoot. Ben and Rin slowly walked forward together past the line of soldiers, past hate and into the neutral zone. No one stopped them. The sun rose slowly over the neutral zone. Red and orange light touched the edge of the canyon, warming the rocks and sand. The wind was calm now. The world seemed quiet, like it was holding its breath. Ben and Rin sat beside a small river, deep. Inside the canyon, the water sparkled under the light. It was the first real river they had seen in weeks. They had made it. Rin dipped her hand into the cool water. She didn't speak for a while, just listened to the soft flow. "What now?" she asked finally. Ben looked around. "We stay hidden. Rest. Then we find someone willing to help us contact the peacekeepers. Will they believe us?" She asked. That a human and a Scifi crossed the desert together without killing each other. Ben gave a small smile. "Maybe not. But that's not the part that matters. Then what does?" "That we're still alive," he said. "And we didn't become what the war wanted us to be." Rin thought about that for so long. She had only seen humans as dangerous, monsters who burned villages and showed no mercy. That belief had been fed to her since childhood. But now, sitting beside one who had saved her more than once, she saw how wrong that belief had been. She looked at Ben's tired face. His eyes were sharp, but kind. His hands were rough, but gentle. "You should have killed me when you had the chance," she said quietly. "I didn't want to," Ben replied. "I thought you were lying," she said. "I thought you wanted something else." Ben chuckled. "I did want something, just not what you expected." She looked at him. "What was it?" Ben looked out across the river. "I wanted to prove that peace is possible, even if it starts small. Just 2 people? Sometimes 2 people are enough." They sat in silence for a while. Birds flew overhead. A small animal ran across the stones. The canyon was alive, in its own way, far from the war. Later that day, they built a small shelter using rocks and a cloth sheet from Ben's bag. Rin helped patch holes with thread and wire. At night, they lit a fire and shared the last of their rations. "Do you think the soldiers will come after us again?" Rin asked. "They might," Ben said. "Or maybe they'll be too afraid to explain what happened." Rin smiled a little. Afraid to admit they saw peace, Ben laughed. Yeah, can't write that in a war report. The next morning, message signal blinked on Ben's old radio. He fixed the frequency and listened carefully. The voice was low, scrambled, but it was clear enough. Neutral patrol. Received strange report, human and Sirari seen. Crossing together, searching for confirmation. Ben handed the radio to Rin. They might believe it more coming from you. She pressed the button and spoke clearly. This is Rin. Of the Sirari. I crossed the border with a human named Ben. He did not harm me. He helped me. We are in the neutral canyon near the river bend. We wish to talk to peacekeepers. There was silence. Then the voice came back. Message received. Remain where you are. Patrol will arrive in 2 days. Do not leave the area. Ben turned off the radio and looked at Rin. Looks like we're not alone anymore. Are you ready? She asked. No, he said, but I'm willing. 2 days passed slowly. But for once, it didn't feel like waiting for death. It felt like waiting for a door to open. They spent their time cleaning the camp, preparing answers, and watching the sky. On the second evening, a small aircraft landed near the river. 2 humans and 2 Sirari stepped out, each wearing the mark of the peacekeepers. A silver band shaped like an open hand. Ben and Rin walked out together to meet them. No guns were raised. The peacekeepers asked many questions. How had they met? Why did they travel together? Was this a trap? Rin answered calmly, It is not a trap. This is truth. Ben added, We want to be heard, not for ourselves, but for the people who are tired of war. The peacekeepers looked at one another. You understand this changes everything? One of them said. Yes, Rin said. That's why we came. After that, the peacekeepers took them to a larger base inside the neutral zone. It was safe, quiet, and filled with people from both sides trying to rebuild. There were doctors, translators, and even teachers. Rin saw a small Sirari child playing with a human girl near a fountain. She stopped walking and smiled. Ben saw her face and asked, What is it? It reminds me of my sister, she said. I hope she's alive. We'll find her, Ben promised. If she's out there, we'll find her. In the days that followed, news of Ben and Rin's journey spread. Some people were angry. Some called it betrayal. But others began to ask questions, real questions. Could peace really begin between enemies? Could trust grow from kindness? And if one human and one Sirari could walk together without blood, maybe more could follow. One evening, Rin and Ben sat by a garden inside the neutral base. The moon was high. The stars were bright. You never told me what you truly wanted, Rin said. Ben looked at her and smiled. I wanted you to live, he said. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the moon pin, and I wanted to fly. She whispered, Maybe now we both will, Ben said. They sat together in peace. The war was not over yet, but something had begun.